Hey there, Variety here. Welcome to today's video in which we're going to be doing a healer class guide for Fantasy Tales Sword and Magic. The healer is a little bit different compared to the DPS specs. I'm going to do today's video a little bit differently. So many of the abilities for the healer are obviously applied to somebody else. So I've brought an alt here in which I'm going to use the abilities on and explain how they work. So let's open up the abilities real quick. So the abilities we're going to be using for the first build are going to be Divine Hand. Divine Hand basically does an AoE around the target that you hit. It heals and does damage depending on if it's an enemy or an ally. Holy Gift is basically a single target heal, and when you use it on your allies, it'll give them a special effect, which procs when you use your core ability. Healing Light is another ability in which you single target or you resurrect with it, and it'll also put an effect on them. So basically, depending on which one you use, depends on which effect they get put on them. Dedication is going to be a large AoE heal, and your core ability is going to be Nature's Rhythm. So basically, what Nature's Rhythm does is that AoE heals, and it puts a special effect on the ally depending on which abilities you've already used on them. So if we look through the talents, so Remedy, it makes it so your Divine Hand is converted into more healing. Great, you want to do healing with this build because it's primarily on healing. The healing effect of Holy Gift is increased by 8%, and cooldown reduction, that's great. Blessing, when the target is affected by the effect of Nature Rhythm, which is this ability here, it will additionally increase the target's damage penetration by 14%. So basically, you use your single target heal on them, and then they get the buff, and then you use your main core ability, Nature's Rhythm, and then it will give them extra damage penetration. So Prayer will give them, is again a heal, and it will give them Vitality. If you give them Vitality and then use your core ability over here, it'll give them an extra 9% shield blocking and 13% skill healing for 10 seconds. So this one is great for the tank. Protection, heal effects on Healing Light. Healing Light can be cast on dead targets to resurrect them. So this is great. Level this up if you want to get some extra HP when you get them up. I've gone pretty heavily into here because it can, I like to use it on the tank and then heal the people around. That's why I've got 4 points in the first one. The second talent tree is going to be Heavenly Magic. Extra 10% to Nature's Rhythm. Rhythm is your ability using to proc, and it's going to heal. So, that is great. You're going to be using this constantly to proc your abilities depending on your teammates as well as heal. Devotion, the 10% heal effect of Divine Hand, cause damage and reduced by 30%. It will give the target Divine Judge. Divine Judge takes effect in maximum 5 targets. So, Judged by the Holy Light lasts for 10 seconds. Basically, what this will do is it'll stun enemies. So, instead of putting a buff on an ally, it's putting a negative on the enemy, and it will stun them when you use your core ability. Brilliance, the Healing Light will add Soothing status. This one's Soothing, and increasing the target's final damage reduction by 8%. Soothing, when the target is under recovery, the target will have additional tenacity and defense. So basically, this is used on the tank as well. So your Soothing and your... Where was the first one? Vitality. So Soothing and Vitality buffs on the tank, and then use your primary ability to AoE heal, and, it'll prop the tank up. So, if you want to know what each individually buff does and really look into it, I'd suggest, getting on the class and looking through the abilities. But basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use every ability in a row on my tank, and then I'm going to proc my main ability, okay? So here is the one that, AoE. Here is your single target. Here is your single target. There's your AoE. Now I'm going to proc it. See how I've got all these effects? That's because I put the effects on him, and then I activated my main ability, which is this here. Keep in mind that while these ones here have slight differences, damage and healing and single target and stuff like that, the main ability, your core ability, there's a 30-second cooldown, so you can't keep proccing all the effects. You got to use the effect just before, this is ready to go again. Now that we've looked at the core healer build, I want to add a little bit of extra information. So up to, I would say, level 50 content, you can kind of get away without a healer or running in DPS spec in two main ways. So I believe it's after 8 days of playing the game, you will get a sprite, and he'll be called Ding Ting. What he does is, with his effect, is it gives your teammates damage reduction, damage rebound, and also 20% shield of their max HP. So if I do this, everybody in the team gets a shield. Now, imagine all 5 people in your shield have this because everybody's given it, right? So everybody's chaining them together to keep shields up. And sure, you're not running a DPS sprite, so maybe a little bit less DPS, but this is unimaginably effective. And I just did the hardest raid that's currently available a little earlier, and the shields were constant. Honestly, it was great. The second thing that you can do is you can bring in a merc. Now, I have the merc that is Ebby. Ebisu is very, very powerful. So you combine your mercenary Ebby, which can go into most content, along with the sprite that gives the shield, and you can get through any content, except the extreme high level challenge ones, sub level 50, without too much hassle. Okay, so let's go in and have a look at the second spec. Okay, for the second part, we're going to have a look at the DPS build. So let's go into skills, talents. All right, so the first one we're going to look at is discipline. So basically what discipline does is it puts Soulfire causes 189% damage of holy damage every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. So basically you're putting a dot on them, right? And when this dot is applied to the enemy, your other abilities are amplified. So let's have a quick look at the talents. So Divine Hand, which is one of the abilities we're going to be using. Before, it did more healing and less damage, but it did a mix. But the more points you put into here, the more damage it'll do, less healing. I'd put more points in here, but I've got more important talents. Each Soulfire you have increases damage by 25%. Soulfire comes from Discipline, really important. Cosmic Web, Soulfire, more damage. Of course, buffing your main core ability is important. Let's go into the first tree. Redemption, Hymn of Light damage increases by 18% for each enemy hit by the first wave. Basically what this does is it bursts out a wave and it removes the stuns and disabling effects on your allies. Which ability was it again? It was Hymn of Light. Yeah, so Hymn of Light, the Holy Priest dispels control buffs and is moved for 2 seconds and emits 2 waves causing damage. The first wave removes debuffs from allies and has a 50% chance of stunning enemies. You can also remove enemy buffs. So this is actually really good. I've seen many times where people AFK in a dungeon and they just get stunned for 3 seconds by abilities because they're kind of AFK doing it. So having this could actually, get a lot of extra damage by removing those effects. So that's what this one does. Lawmaker. Judgment damage increased by 30% and additional reduces the target's 3% tenacity and defense by 3%. So Judgment is your core ability here that you're going to be using. I think that Judgment combined with Discipline, your main ability here, your Soulfire, is probably going to be your most important. So you're going to use Soulfire and then you're going to use Judgment to decrease their defenses. And then you're going to use Divine Hand to damage AoE and heal. Heal is a strong word. Heal a little bit AoE. Okay, so Aurora. When casting the Holy Gift, inflict 220% of the amount of holy damage on targets within range of Soulfire. So we put Soulfire on them with Discipline, and then we'll be using Holy Gift to heal our allies. So imagine, a DPS or a tank's really close to the boss that you just put stacks on. Then you use that on the person to heal them, and when you heal them, it hits enemies that are close by with Soulfire. Inspiration, 5% attack for all teammates. I don't think I need to explain this. Very basic, very straightforward. Extra 5% attack, that is definitely where you want to put your points. Okay, so let's have a look at the abilities real quick. Alright, so this is going to be your Judgment. Okay, so let's take Judgment back off. We want to use our main core ability first to get Soulfire. Okay, there we got Soulfire. Now we use Judgment. Now we use our AoE damage. That is our ability to, remove buffs. And now we're going to, okay, we did that a little bit too late. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to put stacks on them and then we're going to use our shield. And I'm going to show you the damage. So put that on, and now I copy. See, I did all that extra damage. So you're doing damage by shielding an ally. Of course, you can change his abilities around a little bit. So, for example, you could swap out Hymn of Light or Divine Hand, perhaps. I don't know if I necessarily do it, but you could swap into Dedication or Healing Light if you needed a bit of, a bit of healing. I believe that you can still revive. I haven't actually had to revive with the DPS spec, so I'm not entirely sure if you can still revive with this, but I think that it might. If it does, then you could potentially take that as well. Okay, I think that's everything you need to know for the healing class. Just remember what I said earlier about bringing in a healing merc and bringing the sprite that is Ding Ding, and it'll easily get you to level 50 content. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching.